The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Today, our guest is Joshua David Thayer. He is a musician out of the Massachusetts area. He's been doing this stuff for a very long time. And in recent years, he decided to go and do like his solo project, which is awesome. Stick around to the end of the episode to hear a song off of his latest album, So Little Close to Nothing. This is episode 411 of the Struggling Artist Podcast. Struggling with Joshua David Thayer. Like I said, thanks for being patient with me, you know?
Yeah, man, no problem. This is great. Happy to be here.
You reached out and then I was like, yeah, and I got a chance to check out your stuff and I really liked it. And like right off the bat, it gave me like, bear with me here. So like I a lot of my music influence came from the 90s because that's when I think I was the most influential for listening to music and everything like that. So, but there was an album that came out and like everyone knows who Beck is, right? And like Loser and like, you know, he got into like that more electronic stuff later on, but like the album that Loser was on, Mellow Gold, like there's no other song like Loser on that album. You know what I mean? And I don't think he's really touched on anything like that album. And I was getting those kind of vibes from your stuff. In particular, So Little Close to Nothing, because it just like you kind of float in the same like art space, I think, as he did in the beginning, you know, because like you have elements of folk in there, you have elements of alt rock. There's a little bit of like I could hear like some like funky bass going on. And then you kind of dabble in the electronic stuff too a little bit with it, right?
Yeah. I mean, the reason for that is like a lot of my formative music stuff was late 80s and 90s, right? I was in college, mid 90s squarely. And, you know, I remember like in college being in the dining hall when like Loser was playing on the TVs in the dining commons, right? Like, and it was a huge song and a huge influence, of course. Like it was like, nobody knew, nobody's making stuff like that at the time. Right. So, yeah, I think you're tapping in right off the bat to like, all of my roots are back there in that same way. Right. Like, and then over the years you expand and you try some different things on and you listen to some different things and you start collaging it all together in some fashion. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what got you into playing music at a young age? What got you into wanting to like be like that, like a creative, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've been creatively minded, I think, since I was a kid, just always drawing and making art. And I remember being like elementary school, first and second grade, and my mother started taking some guitar lessons. And I tagged along a few times and thought, oh man, guitar seems awesome. But I could never, I was too small and too young. And like she had a classic guitar, so the neck was really thick and wide, and I just couldn't do anything with it. So I took piano lessons instead for a number of years. And that kind of led me into when I got to junior high, I got into the school bands playing xylophone and glockenspiel because nobody else, there weren't any other piano players in my grade. So I sort of got pulled in. And so that started getting me used to like what it means, like how you play in an ensemble, what it means to play in a musical group. And one of the things that happened a couple of years after joining the school bands is I switched over to trombone because all the trombone players graduated. And so the high school music teacher said, hey, do you want to try out trombone? Because we need some people. We got to get some new folks in. And for whatever reason, it clicked like pretty easily. Like I never practiced really, but I got really good at sight reading. And so I could like show up for band rehearsal and just figure it out pretty like on the spot. And this is sort of a long musical journey, but that led into with the trombone, joining the school pep band. And then there was a guy in the pep band that was playing bass guitar. And I saw the bass guitar and I was like, I didn't even understand what it was at the time. Like I didn't know enough about how rock music was made and constructed and what the pieces were yet. And I saw the bass guitar and I was like, that thing sounds awesome. And so that became my first, I sort of set on a quest to like buy a bass guitar and save up some money and went to a store. The guy quoted me the wrong price, cheaper than he was supposed to, and had to sell it to me because his manager made him. So I got a little nice deal there. And the day I got the bass, some friends called up and said, hey, we're going to put a band together. Do you want to come practice with us? So right off the bat in high school, it was sophomore year of high school. I guess it was sophomore year. Started an original rock and roll band with, high school classmates. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
That's awesome. Let me ask something about like getting involved in music at like a school level, right? With like being in the, band and what was the other thing? The pep
band. Yeah. Playing the basketball games,
Yeah. Is there like, does it teach you like camaraderie with that? Like, or is it kind of like a solo thing doing that?
You really, when you get into those kinds of environments, because it's all orchestrated, all the bits and pieces and all the elements are playing just parts of the phrases and things that layer up. So just musically, you learn really quickly about, I would say, musical camaraderie in a way. Like what I play is going to be accented by the trumpet player, and the drummer is going to, do something complementary and whatever. And if you're paying attention to sort of the bigger scope, you definitely start to learn a sense of musical landscape or musical environments. And then, of course, like you're always in rehearsals and taking breaks and palling around with your buddies. And so that definitely, like, that group became like different fractions of it broke off to become the pep band, and parts of the pep band broke off to become this original band, and so on and so forth, right? You can figure. And it's not dissimilar from like a local music scene, right? Like you get all these bands that sort of cross-pollinate and form different sort of new unions. And then those become kind of like the new environments for people to pal around and become buddies and connect or not, right? Like not all those work out the way that they could or should maybe.
Yeah. That's, I never really thought about that with like how it started, like starting that way from, being in band, you know what I mean? And like the other thing, like, did they teach you how to like make music, like how to create the sounds and stuff like that, so you could write your own, or is it more like they just teach you how to play it?
I would say in your sort of high school and elementary music environments, you don't learn a whole lot about composition and putting things together for your own, of your own. A lot more of that is you're playing an established chart that someone that someone's written out, like band arrangements, and you get your part and you play your part as part of the ensemble. But a driven student and in the right school system with the right teacher, they can offer extra things. And there was my high school teacher did offer some composition classes as like an add-on elective that you could take junior and senior year. And so I had a very small school I went to. There was only 42 kids in my whole graduating class out in Western Mass. But 3 of us did the composition class our senior year, and got to sort of write some things out for that we would try out in the jazz band or in the pep band or whichever. But I think more than anything that inspires for the right people. I think those experiences inspire individual musical journeys, right? And so what happened for me is I had a few friends, like I said, who wanted to start a band, mostly because we were tired of playing all the covers and the charts and things and wanted to try to make our own things. And we just did, I guess you'd probably call it woodshedding, right? Like we just got an instruments and went down in the basement and just played and played and played and tried things until we figured out like, what sounds right to us, what sounds interesting, and what do we enjoy putting together. And, and you draw from things you're listening to, of course, right? At first we were trying to like do our version of U2 as like 10th graders and 11th graders, pretending that we were playing giant stadiums, because I think Rattle and Hum had just come out a little bit before we put that band together. So we were sort of excited about that live movie and the footage and everything from there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So like when you were in these bands, right, as you progressed through your music career, like, were you always just playing the bass and also like, what was like the process of like, were you guys writing stuff together or were you just going in and playing a part?
Yeah, it's been different. My high school band where I sort of learned the most about being in a band and writing stuff and putting things together. That's really the foundation for everything I'm doing even until today. And that project, it was a band called Love Minus Zero, which is named after a Bob Dylan song, but we didn't really listen to Bob Dylan. It's just, we're going through the book and found the title and was like, that's cool. So with Love Minus Zero, it was a sort of a collaboration where anybody could bring something in. And so, we were all in high school. Everybody had a book of like poetry or lyrics or things they were trying to, pour their heart out to impress, other kids in school of whatever persuasion.
Yeah.
And so people would come in with like notebooks and whatever, and someone would say, oh, I've got this little bit of music, couple chords, and let's see if we can pair. Is there something in here that you can sing over the top of this? And so it really was like a pretty organic sort of democratic free-for-all kind of environment with that group.
Mm-hmm.
But I was always playing, I was just bass player, not just a bass player, I was a bass player. And after high school, that band, there was like another iteration of it through some of the college years, but then it sort of faded as everybody went off to their new towns and new homes and new lives. And so I did a lot of like, I had a few projects going on where it was just sort of a hired gun type of thing where it's a band existed or a songwriter was trying to put a band together. And so I got into a few environments like that where I was, not contributing any songs or anything, just developing or learning parts that existed. Like if they'd already recorded, you come in and you sort of learn as best you can or your flavor of what was on the recording to figure out like a live version. And then when I got into, I've done some projects where really the songwriter had very specific parts that they wanted to have captured in the live version. And I don't know, as a creative, like that's not my favorite environment necessarily. Like I don't love learning someone else's tunes. I've never really played like a lot of covers. Like all the bands I've been in have all been original bands. And so I always like the environments where I get to put my own stamp on things. So mostly I've kind of searched for those sorts of things, but only recently, 2 years ago, is when I really started doing more than bass.
Yeah, I know. I was reading about that. So like that was, and I think I was on your Instagram, and I might have seen a clip where I think you were in another interview and you started getting into that. And I'm like, oh no, because like I want to be as like, I don't know, like as like not off the top, but like just kind of like I don't want another interview to influence me into asking questions. So I had to like stop it. But I'm
Yeah.
super interested to hear this. So I want to ask. So 35 years of playing music in bands, right? And what switched inside of you that was like, hey, I want to do like this solo project where I'm writing everything, and you're playing all the instruments too, right?
Yeah. So I have 2 records out, and I played everything except for the drums. Um, until there's one song on a new record where I brought in a few guests just because it felt right for that one piece. But everything else is all guitars, bass, keyboards, everything vocal. All the vocal sounds is all me. But to sort of answer your question, there were a few swirling elements that kind of combined to kick off this. I don't know what to really reimagining, I guess, of how I'm connecting with and finding, music in my life right now. And one of them was I had been in a band in the early 2000s for 6 years or so until I moved to Boston. So it was a band based out in Western Mass called Fancy Trash. And I formed that band with a couple guys that I met, and we did pretty well for a while. And they're still together. And but I moved to Boston, and after being in the band for about 6 years, and left the group. Just at that point, it was sort of more difficult to collaborate over a distance. And even though Northampton's only 2 hours west,
Yeah.
it still felt like a great divide. Like it was. So anyway, so I moved out to Boston and kind of just reshuffled things in my life. And one of the choices was to drop music for a little while. I was pretty burnt out because we'd done a lot of touring and we'd done a lot of other things that, varying returns on investment on those efforts.
Mm.
And so I kind of set music down for a long time, actually, when I was living in the Boston area, where I started living in the Boston area. And a few years ago, those guys reached out, and there was a friend who had been a fan in the early years of the band that was his relatives were throwing a birthday party for him for his 50th. And so they wanted to get the original lineup of the band together to play that party. So so they gave me a call, and I rejoined the band for that. And then we had a recording we had done that was I don't know, sort of things we had done just before I moved to Boston that just sat in a storage bin for a while. So we rejoined. When I rejoined, we sort of took on the task of, hey, let's put out this little recording, right? And so we got that mixed and mastered, and then released that, and then parted ways again. And so, but what happened through that for me was just sort of re-energized about making music again. And so I was playing, just goofing around a lot, like trying to come up with new ideas and play with things, and buying guitars again for the first time in a long time. And coming down to the basement and just messing around. And a couple things happened after. So I left that group, and then my father passed away kind of unexpectedly. And 2 weeks after my father passed away, I also got laid off from my job. So it was sort of this swirl of things as I was like, I sort of felt like the only thing I really had left at that point was coming down in the basement and like making things. Besides my family and everything, of course, like I'm not like, but like creatively and output wise, like I didn't really have anything. I felt a little adrift with the loss of my father and my job kind of so close. And so I just kept coming downstairs and messing around, and eventually that swirled into, I started to think like, I might be making music of my own here? Like, we just felt so like bizarre, like unknown. And I just kind of started tugging on the thread and realized that something was cooking that was new and different. And I'd never sung on anything before. I had never really recorded or released any guitar playing of my own. Like, so it was really, yeah, sort of a fresh thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it's awesome to be able to create something like that and create something new, and like not like sometimes the older we get, it's harder to take those steps into new, like tiptoe into the new, like, waters or whatever. So my hat's off to you for doing that, because like I think at a certain age we also start to forget, like we forget about, like we get comfortable with things, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And we get comfortable with things, and like we don't mean to be like complacent with it, right? But like sometimes it just feels that way, and after a while, and like being able to just like get the courage for yourself to go and try something new and see where it goes is it's awesome. It's an awesome feeling,
Yeah. Yeah, it really, I mean, in a way, I think I felt compelled. Like, I felt a little bit like I didn't really have a choice
Yeah.
to some degree. Like, I needed to capture some things that I couldn't quite put my finger on, but it felt like the process that I got into, I just trusted or believed that like that was going to help me get to wherever it was that I needed to get to. And I didn't know what that was. Like, I didn't have any plan. I just explored and trusted instinct and followed where it went. Right.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
I think, another huge influence during that time was, I had also picked up, Rick Rubin's book, called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. And, Rick Rubin maybe gets mixed reviews sometimes with his philosophical approach, but he's a very Zen, he's a really Zen creator. Maybe I guess producer, right? Some people might take issue with calling him a creator because he has this particular way of kind of guiding and coaxing and creating an environment for the people that he works with. And his book, at that time, just like hit right, like it was the sort of thing where like I had his book nearby, and it was sort of always on like the nearby table. So it's the sort of book where you open it up and you can literally open any page and read it, and it feels like this phrase was written like 5 minutes ago to speak to me right in this moment, right? Like it just feels so direct and like in the moment. And so that really helped. There's a lot of stuff in there around trust and around like sort of channeling, and the idea that like everything, like if you don't make it, someone else is going to make it, because there's something that's trying to push creative work into the world, and it's up to us to sort of capture it and in the best manner and mechanism that we can, to be able to sort of like give it form, right? And then offer it up to the world for the, I don't know, enrichment and betterment of the planet or the culture or something. I don't know.
Right on. Now, so the time that you spent where you weren't making any music or playing music, like, did you feel like you were missing something during that time? Was this, so like for me, I had a long stretch in my 20s where I write, and like I wasn't writing, and like I would do things, like I was like trying to make up what that felt to me by just keeping busy, right? Like working too much or drinking too much, or you know what I mean? Like, and it took me, when I started to write more like consistently again, I'm like, oh yeah, why did I stop this? You know what I'm saying? So was there like that for you, or were you able to kind of like?
Yeah. I mean, I got real jobs, right? And like got into doing, I was working in creative spaces. So marketing teams that, in like tech companies, and making videos and making stuff. So there's a little bit of like, it was like trying to fill that void with things that were like close enough to some degree, or like as close or as adjacent to that creative mindset as I could get. But for sure, like, I mean, even calling it a void, right? Like something was missing, right? Like for certain. And I think that's probably part of why like rejoining the band ignited stuff again for me. Even though that was just sort of like a short blip, I felt what it felt like again to be making things, to be like having the, feeling the music kind of flow, right? Like the pulse of kick drum and bass on your chest, like feels like nothing else, right? When you're on stage and you're making those sound waves, like you can't get that anywhere else in the same way. And so for sure, like reconnecting and reigniting, felt like it was, reminding myself about like a part of me that was supposed to be active that had gone dormant. Right.
Right on. Yeah, that's good. So let's kind of let's get into So Little Close to Nothing, because like I said, like I had a lot of like awesome feelings and vibes from it, and like it has like these sad moments, but also these kind of like almost like not like happy in the sense of like kind of makes you want to dance too, right? It kind of like want to make it's like a little upbeat. You have a little upbeat in there, and like so. Tell me about the record. Tell me about like when you were writing this, like the time frame, and what was going on like creatively, like to make all this happen.
Yeah. Well, so the record, So Little Close to Nothing is my second record, and it's sort of, it's a pretty quick follow on from the first record, which was it came out 13 months ahead. So just over a year, between the two records. The first record, really pretty, not all of it lyrically, but at least vibe and spiritually, like is trying to come to terms, a lot of it with the loss of my father, which I already mentioned. Some of the songs very directly are, stories or anecdotes or emotions or feelings around that experience. And as a result, it has a certain energy or vibe to it. When I got, when I was almost done with that record, I was making it all at first with recorded drums, computer drums. And then I realized like, I think I want my friend Jason to play live drums on the record. So pretty late in the process, replaced the computerized drums with live drums. And while I was waiting for that session to happen, actually some of the writing for So Little Close to Nothing occurred. So there was a bit of a few months where I was almost done with the first record, but I knew I was going to be going in to record drums. I didn't want to work on those songs anymore. So I set them aside. And I just kept writing because I was in the habit at that point of kids go to bed and I come downstairs and pick up an instrument and find some piece of music, right? And so I just kept going, and a number of the songs from that became the initial foundation for the second record. And I think to some degree they were a little bit of where the first record maybe is a little bit dark. These songs started to sort of bubble a little bit more. And I think that's probably what you're tapping into, is like there's a little more of a like an acceptance that contributes to a different energy on this record that does feel, while it's not necessarily a positive record, it's a little more upbeat, it's a little more groovy. And I think thematically this record takes off in more of a direction of trying to understand or come to terms with living with the things that you've experienced. And in this case, for me directly, it's sort of like grief and loss. How did those become something additive to your experience in the universe, right? And you're not, we use the term loss a lot, but you're really sort of gaining a different way of looking at things, a different way of experiencing your day to day in your life. And so a lot of material on this record is sort of that, thinking about like, what's the universe and why are we here and what are we supposed to accomplish? And if anything, right? And so musically, I think I wanted to, I guess I wanted to try to make things a little, I'm not sure the right term really, not really more poppy necessarily, but a little more upbeat to some degree.
Yeah.
And but with an element, as you point out, like there's little pastiches and little collage bits where it's like there's a verse that feels like a reggae thing, but then it goes into this weird soundscape, right? Like, I don't know how to account for that, except maybe to go back a little bit to what I was saying before around just sort of following instincts, right? And trying to really not have no preconceived idea about what something's supposed to be, and let it sort of decide in the moment, right? What feels right is the thing that's right, you know.
Now, is that how Get Down came together and like kind of became this like an ensemble, right? Like of different musicians.
Yeah. That one, it's funny. I mostly work, well, I would say exclusively so far, and anyone who sticks with a process forever just because it's the way they do things is making a mistake. But right now, the process usually is music comes first. Some musical idea comes first. And then I listen, and slowly, because I'm still learning how to like use my voice and write words that suit myself and write melodies that I can deliver. But that's still a really new thing. And so slowly bits of words and bits of melodies come along. And a lot of these songs, and Get Down is a great example, where the musical piece inspired some memories of a thing and then those memories sort of trickle in. And they're not story songs really, but they're songs kind of about like the memory of the feeling of the thing, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so Get Down, it was really almost came out the whole song in like an afternoon, where I had this musical idea. It had this sort of almost Eastern European, Balkan, klezmer kind of vibe to some of the music in there. And so when I wrote it, right away I thought, oh, this needs a violin part, because I just heard it. And so I wrote a part out and added it, synthetic, like fake violin with keyboard, and but I hadn't all charted out. Like I wrote the whole thing out, and I had just a bit before that song, I was an extra on a movie and playing like a folk musician. So I had brought a banjo, and I was playing a banjo player on this as a background extra.
Nice.
And on that, I met another musician named Tracy Grammer, who's a pretty well-renowned folk singer. And she was playing violin in the folk band in the movie. And so we hit it off and joked around a lot on set, because we were like in the woods for 8 hours waiting to be called to the set. And I wrote the song and wrote the violin part, and I was like, I think this Tracy needs to play on this song. And so I reached out and I was like, hey, I wrote this really weird song, and I think you need to play violin on it. Would you be interested?
Nice.
And she said, yeah. So, so she was sort of the first piece of like, this is like the first musician that wasn't me and what wasn't a drummer coming in to add something to my solo material.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so when you write these songs, like, because you play multiple instruments, right? So like, does it always start with the same kind of sound in your head, or does it depend on the tune? The whole premise of this podcast is I don't know how to write songs, and the day I write one, I'm going to end the podcast. It's going to be over.
Yeah.
So I'm always picking everyone's brain about it because, like, for me, I just don't hear the sounds. That's the hardest part. I see like I see images, and then I'll, like, for me, like, I'll see the words, and you know what I'm saying? Like, and kind of pieces it, because everything I write is definitely like emotional driven, right? So like, however I'm feeling, and I'm like, oh, and I'm too wordy. I have too many words, so it's like, what the hell? But yeah. So like, does it start with a sound for you?
Yeah, never the same, really. Like, I, to some degree, intentionally will come down and I'll know, oh, like I start last week when I came down, I picked up the Telecaster, but so I'm not going to pick that up tonight, right? I'm going to pick up something else and see, or I've been all on guitar, so I'm going to see if I can find something with like a piano sound or something. That's about the extent of premeditation. It's like, I might have a feeling of like, I feel like playing this thing tonight. And then I just noodle around a little bit until I'll be like, oh, actually, those couple chords sound interesting, or that little lick is kind of cool. And for me, recording and writing it's like almost wholly intertwined. Like, I come up with a little thing, and probably sooner than people would say you should, I turn on the microphone or I arm a track and catch it in my recording software. And then it's about, what does that inspire? And so, it's find the first thing, and then it's react, because you have one thing, you add a second, now it's something different. And so what is that thing, and what is it asking for? What is it calling for to now layer on? And everything is kind of built that way. It's just find the first thing, and then listen to it and react to it and go from there, and trust. Like, almost always, if I feel like, if I'm listening to something and I get a sudden twinge where I'm like, oh, xylophone. I'm like, okay, I don't know why, but like, xylophone feels like the next thing. So let's pull it over and let's put a mic in front of it and let's find something. Right.
We'll just find something. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're all kind of built up in that way. And that's how all the layers happen. It's just from that process.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it seems like there's been a good reception for the new record, right? Like, you've gotten some airplay on radio and, coverage through zines, right, for it. And so, like, I mean, it's got to feel, does it feel good that, do you feel like, oh, I should have been doing this from the beginning, or do you think the time was now to do it, and this maybe not have happened if it was before,
Yeah. I'll answer that with two truths.
Yeah, sure.
One is, I really believe, like, it came together, or it started when it was supposed to finally start. Like, I've for decades now been like, oh, I wish I could make my own stuff, but I never believed in it. Right. I never trusted myself to do it. And so it took, the catalyst to sort of break the floodgates. And that wouldn't have been the same without all the stuff that led up to that moment. Right. And then the second statement is just that even doing it, like, I feel so, like, unsure of myself and not confident, and not, like, imposter syndrome is 1,000% real, right? Like,
yeah.
and it's been really interesting to have people pick it up, want to write about it, like want to do some things like this now and then. Um, to just like this, there's so many ways, there's a billion ways to make music, right? And none of them are wrong. But sometimes I feel like, oh, but I'm just making the stuff sitting here in this room all by myself at my desk, right? Like everybody else is doing it for real, right? And so
It's funny that I think a lot of people think that way, but like doing this for real is 99% of the time, doing it in your basement, doing it in your bedroom. Like I know so many people that are now like, they're releasing so much more now that they can like, oh yeah, I can record this myself. And you know what I mean? Like, I think that's one of the positives of technology of today, right? We live in a world where you can self-release whatever you want to do. You can do it with books, you can do it with music, you can do it with, you know what I mean, film, like, and I love that. But like, yeah, you're right. There is that element to everybody, I think, who does that. Man, like, am I doing this the right way?
Yeah. And I mean, you'd have to constantly remind yourself, like, there is no right way, right? But like, the right way is for you today in this moment, the way that you're making something, right? Like, that's the right way. Tomorrow, it might be totally different, right? Like, you can never say, this is the way I do things because this is the right way. Because tomorrow you have a different sum of experience tomorrow, and you're bringing a different thing to the table, and you're coming with a different mindset. Even if you think you're in the same place, you're not, right? Like, and I think it's hard to remember that sometimes when you're just by yourself, sitting around like in a dark windowless room in your basement, right? Like, and you see, you look at Instagram or whatever, you follow people, other bands and artists on social media, and of course, you see the highlights. You see people in these like cool studios with these beautiful microphones and like all these people jamming and doing cool things. And it's hard not to compare sometimes, to be like, well, how can what I'm doing here like measure up to anything anybody else is doing in that environment?
Yeah, for sure. So like, all right, with that said, I kind of want to pivot to this other thing that for this discussion was like, so like, you pulled your stuff off of Spotify, or did you pull your stuff off of every streaming service?
Just Spotify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now in today's world, like, people will kind of look at that and be like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, I actually just had a conversation with somebody about Bandcamp, right? Because he did A&R for a record label for years and years and years, and then he got out of it and like he does his own thing now. But like, he was like, don't put anything on Bandcamp. So like, him and I had this discussion, and I'm like, well, why not? Like, why? That's the best way for somebody like me who wants to support the artist, and they're going to get, most of their proceeds. And we had this long discussion about it, but I want to hear your thoughts on it too. Like, I want to hear like what drove you to decide, Spotify, I'm done with it. Like, I don't use Spotify for my hearing things, only because like, well, the reason why I stopped is because I think the quality's shit. I think their sound quality is terrible. So I was like, I like to hear things a little crisper, you know what I mean? So, my Bandcamp, my Bandcamp, like, collection is ridiculous. I have over 900 titles in it. Like, you know what I mean? So like, but like, and I'm okay with that. Like, I mean, when I was 20 years old, when like I was stealing music, like, you know what I mean? Like, because I couldn't afford it, but when I could, I went and bought it, right? So I made sure all those artists, I bought all their albums 20 times over by now. So I think I think they owe me now at this point, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've done right. Yeah.
But so like kind of tell me about like, why the pivot? Was it a stressful decision to make for you as far as like getting exposure,
It was pretty easy, honestly. There are a few factors that went into it. One is, when I put out my first record, I was like, oh, it's so exciting. And like, everything is everywhere and anyone can listen to it anywhere. And, Spotify is like the biggest music platform in the world. Like, it was really exciting to be like, see it there and it felt real. It appeared in Spotify, right? And it's the most used platform. But I kept watching my numbers and the metrics and submitting songs to try to get like the Spotify editors to help promote in some way, or finding these services where, you pay to get into playlists and that's going to be your gold ticket. And number one, like none of it works, right? Like to me, it seemed like the pay to play services were just taking money and giving people, no promotion and nothing, get into maybe somebody would put it in a playlist for like a couple weeks or something, but it didn't lead to plays. And the payout from Spotify is so small, right? 5/500ths of a penny per stream. And then they made a change to the business policies where they said you won't get any money at all until you get to 1,000 streams of a song. And which means really, I think the number is like 85% of music on Spotify has less than 1,000 streams, right? So really they're saying they're demonetizing 85% of the catalog that's available through that platform. And I just started to kind of run numbers and realizing like, okay, like if I charge $10 for a record through Bandcamp from one person, right? If one person buys the record for $10, that's more money in my hands to help replace a crappy cable or get a pack of strings for a guitar than 2,500 streams of a song on Spotify, right? Like, and most independent artists, I think, are not crossing that threshold. As we say, like 85% of people are not crossing that threshold of 1,000. Never mind 2,500 to match, one dedicated supporter making a purchase through Bandcamp. And then on top of it, as you point out, like the sound quality is not the top tier. And some of the sort of, I started to also have some issues with some of the where the money goes after it goes to Spotify.
Yeah.
And, a few other bands like Deerhoof, and a couple other sort of higher profile bands, started to pull their material off for some of these reasons, right? Like some of this money that Spotify makes, of course, goes to the CEO, and the CEO is making investments in companies that were doing things like funding AI weaponry, right? AI powered weaponry. And so it was sort of like ethically, financially, and sort of spiritually, Spotify just started to feel like a real black hole for me, right? Like I just wasn't seeing, like, lots of people will say, oh, but it's, it's where everybody's listening, but like not to me, right? Like
there's like what, 2 million artists on there. Like, like I think, I don't know. I think if someone, because for a while, I mean, I'm on the mindset, like wherever I'm not going to like fault anybody for using Spotify or putting their music on there. But like, if someone's at a crossroads where they're like, I don't believe in what they're doing, I really want to take my stuff down, but where else is someone going to find it? Like the chances of you blowing up because of Spotify is real slim to none.
I think so. I was using Spotify as my listening platform because of the convenience of it, because it was really easy to like.
It was super convenient. Yeah.
I've got some Sonos speakers. It's really easy to like beam it out to the Sonos speakers. I could pick it up on my phone and continue in the car. Like, so really easy and convenient. But it's not a discovery platform, really, right? Like, it's not really trying to help people find music they love. What it's trying to do really is create a background soundtrack that is passive, right? Like, it's trying, really the algorithm is trying to get it so people just put something on and leave it alone. And it just goes, right? It just plays a bunch of stuff that they're not really engaged with. And that, like, artistically and creatively, like, that's not really that interesting to me. And as a music listener, that's not that interesting to me, right? Like, I think maybe twice. Like I pressed play on something that Spotify tried to put in front of me.
Yeah.
But mostly
Yeah.
I'm listening to the stuff that I had on CD 20 years ago that it's just easier to do that there than to carry the CDs around. Right.
Yeah. So like right now I have like I don't know, I got like a discounted Apple Music subscription for a few months because one night I was like, wow, I really want to listen to some 90s hip hop and I don't have it on vinyl. I can't get it on Bandcamp. So I'll pay $4 a month for the next 4 months so I can listen to it. You know what I mean? And then honestly, after that one night, it's like, all right, that's, it just goes back on the shelf or whatever,
Yeah. What I have been pushing instead of Spotify for my own output is Tidal. If you want a streaming platform, Tidal, it has the best artist payout of any of the streaming platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So where you make like 0.05 of a penny for a stream on Spotify, you make a single penny from a stream on Tidal, right? But that's significantly more, which is crazy to say. Like a penny is way more, but in terms of what they pay out, Tidal has been for me. When I look at the numbers through DistroKid, which is what I use for distributing out to the different platforms, the DistroKid charts consistently. Tidal is giving me the most. The most being like in all of my streaming time, I think I've made $14. Right?
Yeah. Right.
So in over 2 years of having my stuff on these platforms, like the payout or the dividend from streaming is essentially zero. And the exposure that you get from those platforms for artists at, whatever in the basement level that I'm at, right? Like it's not going to blow up on any of these platforms in any way. And so that's why I've prioritized Tidal for streaming and Bandcamp as the main. Try to get people, if they care about what I'm doing, to visit this material on those platforms.
Right on. Yeah. So I see so little close to nothing. You're doing a vinyl release for it?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
So what I found is a service called Elastic Stage, and it's an on-demand vinyl distribution.
Cool. All right.
So what's cool for me, like I don't have $2,000 sitting around in my music budget or my music funds to buy a collection of vinyl to maybe hope to sell at shows at some point or to friends and family. But Elastic Stage is cool because you can upload your material after you get it mastered specifically for vinyl, upload your material, and then you can build a page, direct that to people or direct people to that page, and they can order the vinyl through Elastic Stage. Elastic Stage will then manufacture that one-off vinyl and ship it out. So I don't have to hold a collection of vinyl that I have money invested in. I don't have to ship it. It's all handled. Of course, it means I make, if I was selling vinyl at a show, I make a much bigger profit margin on that. But, I'll take $4 from a vinyl sale through Elastic Stage because, as already mentioned, that's like, I can't do the math in my head there, but 1,500 Spotify streams or something, right?
Yeah, that's not the fraction of you know what I mean. Like, I tell people that they're like, should I put my stuff on Bandcamp? I'm like, well, unless you love fractions, like then don't. If you love fractions, don't put it on there.
Right?
But if you like whole numbers, put it on there.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's cool, and that's a cool service. I didn't know they had something like that, right? So that's good. I think that's good for people to know, especially if like for the same in the same boat. You know what I mean? Who like I mean, it's a lot of money to get a press. You know what I mean? To press a run, and then then you got to sell them, right? Now you're not just an artist. Like now you got to be a marketer. You know what I mean? You got to be a salesperson. Like, so are you playing shows? Have you done any shows for your solo stuff?
Yeah, I haven't yet. for a couple reasons. One is I'm terrified to try to get out there and sing in front of people because I have never done that, honestly.
Yeah.
So all the singing, guitar playing I've done has been in this room. And so I have some work to do there to try to feel comfortable enough with that to do it in a new environment. But that said, I have some thoughts about starting to put a band together this year.
Nice.
Or how to play some live shows. And I've got my drummer friend Jason, who played on both records. He lives out in Northampton, so it's hard to do a full-time band together, but I think we would probably be able to do some one-off shows here and there. And I've got another friend who is interested in playing bass, and I'm sort of on the hunt right now to find a couple guitar players to help flesh that out for me.
Nice.
So
nice. That's awesome.
So the idea that there is an idea of getting to, like, one of my goals for the year is to get to the point of being able to play at least a couple shows at some point this year.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. You'll have to let me know if you end up doing that, so I can maybe if it can line up, I'll come out, you know?
Yeah. I think, if and when it happens, I'll make some noise for sure.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So you're not on Spotify, but you are on Tidal. And you are on Bandcamp. Where can people find you if they want to interact? Social media, stuff like that, websites. Do you have any of that?
Yep. Yeah. Website is joshuadavidthayer.com. So it's all my creative stuff. I use my full name, Joshua David Thayer. On Instagram, same thing, Joshua David Thayer. Facebook, Joshua David Thayer. I post primarily to Instagram because I just find that platform more fun and less soul crushing.
Yeah. A lot of people do. I'm the same way. I just
and I do. Most of that content gets then reposted to Facebook as well. So take your pick. If you like one or the other, you're probably going to get the same stuff from me. But I enjoy Instagram, and I like that's where I like, if you hop on there and give me a shout or a message or whatever, that's probably where I'll be most likely to interact and say hey.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Awesome. Well, Josh, this was awesome. Thanks for reaching out. I'm really excited I had a chance to listen to your album and then have you on the podcast. Keep us posted with if you're going to end up doing shows this year or whatever's next to come. You ever want to come back on? Let me know. We can do this all over again.
Yeah. Thanks, Trey. This has been great. And let's keep in touch and look for other ways to connect.
Hell yeah. All right. We'll talk soon.
Cool, man. Thank you.
All right, and that's the show. I want to thank Josh again for being today's guest on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you have links to all things Joshua David Thayer. I want to say thank you to the Struggling Artist team for always being there and helping out and doing their part. Give them all a follow over on the Instagram. Chris Chavez at 716 The Sound, Jeff Bousquet at JRB Image, Oria Rad at Coffin_Salesman, Ryan Cowell at 13th Floor _Ryan, and Dave Anderson at Pinball_Punks. Thank you to State Line Records for sponsoring the podcast. Head to StatelineRecords.com. Buy some records. I want to thank the band Loser's Circle for letting us use their song The Great Illusion of Time off of their album Took Long Enough. You can find a link to their Bandcamp to buy that record on our website, or just go to Bandcamp and search Loser's Circle. I want to thank everybody over at Patreon supporting us over there. If you want to see what's going on over at Patreon, head over to patreon.com/podcast TSA. Thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast, reaches out, tell us what we're doing right, tell us what we're doing wrong, suggests who we should interview, and sends people in our direction. I really do appreciate it. We are full all the time. There is no lack of artists out there that want to come on and talk, and I really do appreciate that. If you want to reach out, Trev at thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. If you want to leave a voicemail, a funny one, a serious one, an emotional one, an angry one, you can do that. Or you can leave us a text, 774-570-1552. Again, 774-570-1552. All right, it's time to get out of here, and Josh was good enough to give us a song to play off of his album, So Little Close to Nothing. This is the opening track from Joshua David Thayer. The album is called So Little Close to Nothing. The song is called We Won't Relent. Until next week, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you then.